What's up, YouTube? It's Dale again. On this edition of the NumberJuan Bus update, we have a special guest who've agreed to answer some questions for us. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Will and Kristen from the NumberJuan Bus, and let's get started.
Woohoo, here I am. Camera guy too.
What's up? Okay,
This is the first official interview in the Slacker bus, huh?
this is true. So let's get started.
All right.
First off, introduce yourselves. Give us a little bit of the history of the Watson family, and we'll go from there.
Do you want to do the introduction?
Sure.
Kristen's good at
So,
this part.
I'm Kristen and this is Will. You might be able to see our blue bus back there that we call Juan. We've been living in that bus for almost 2 years now and traveling full time. We have a toddler, she's 2.5, and we have a dog, he is 9, and they love living the bus life. We do document our adventures weekly on YouTube at the NumberJuan Bus, and we are currently in Lakeland, Florida, hanging out with Dale.
Woohoo!
Thanks. Will, you got anything you want to add, or
No, she's good
that's
at that
good? All right, well, let's get into the questions then. First off, I notice on your YouTube channel in the introduction, you always introduce yourself as a family of 4.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, how about telling us a little bit about the oldest child
Yeah.
that nobody ever, they're always there, but tell us about Rush.
Yeah. You want
So that's Rush, our 9-year-old dog, who we consider our child. And
He's our
don't at us if you don't consider dogs children, because we will fight.
he's our fur child, is what
Yes.
Kristen's always called Rush.
Well, I got Rush when I was 21. I adopted him when he was 10 weeks old. And then we met Will when Rush was about 2 years old.
Yeah.
And we became a little family of 3. And then eventually we added the human child to the pack. And yeah, Rush is a great dog. He is a pit bull. And he is the sweetest boy. Unless you try to break into our bus, then he will bite your face off.
Uh-oh.
As he's sleeping under the table right now during this interview.
Yeah, he's down here. So, is it hard to travel with an animal if you're just in the States or in general?
No, not. I mean, the way that we travel, you know, we're staying off grid most of the time. We're not staying in campgrounds and stuff. If we were staying in campgrounds a lot, there are a lot of restrictions on certain breeds and whatnot. But overall, traveling, you know, with Rush has been
Yeah, so
easy.
we try to follow that like 75-degree weather. So if we do have to leave him in the bus, we have the windows down, and he's got a fan and water, so he's usually good to be left alone in the bus. And
We have cameras where we can monitor him
Yeah.
and stuff too. If we're gone for like, you know, a little hike, we can actually log into the cameras on the bus. And
the main issues we run into with Rush is just breed restrictions, because he is a pit bull. So sometimes campgrounds, privately owned campgrounds like KOA and things like that, and then parts of Canada and different cities in
Yeah.
the United States actually have breed-specific legislation. So
Okay, all right. Kristen, this one's kind of for you. I understand that you are a vegan, so
I'm not a vegan.
I thought you were I thought
I
you
am.
were.
I am.
Okay,
I, no,
that
but
makes-
you can keep
okay,
asking, 'cause
okay.
I am very plant-based, but I do eat fish. So
Okay,
occasionally,
so
so
you're-
pescatarian.
Okay, close. Okay, there's a different term for it. Anyway, the main question is, why do you do that? How long have you done it?
So I've actually, it's been a year now, and then I did it a couple years ago for a year too, but then I got pregnant and I wanted chicken. But the main reason why I do it is for sustainability. So it's really unsustainable for everybody in the world to eat meat the way that we eat it, and specifically like beef and cows. They're terrible for the environment. We tear down forests and crops so that we can mass produce cows so that we can eat hamburgers, and they're destroying our planet. So that's the main reason why is I don't want to destroy the planet. So one easy way to like reduce your carbon footprint is to cut back on the meat that you eat. So that's what started it all. And then there's a thing called Veganary, which is where you eat vegan for the month of January, you challenge yourself. So I did that last January, and then I just kind of like continued not being vegan, but mostly being vegan.
Okay, that's fair enough. You know, what would you say would be your favorite memory or experience since you've been living on the bus? Which you've been doing this for about 2 years now.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite memory or place or?
like the whole experience in general, I think is the best part. I don't know. It's the people that I think we always resonate back with. Would you say like we love all the traveling spots, but some of the best memories are like, you know, the summer that the first year that we were on the bus, the summer that we spent with you guys up in the Adirondacks, and then you know the next summer that we spent out at the Tetons with like Kelson, Jay, and Alex and Jess and
Yeah.
that whole group. It's always like I don't know. It's really even being here, the community when we all get together. It's just it's fun being around like-minded people. I think that's like I don't know if there's an exact favorite.
Those are good memories. We have a lot of good memories. This lifestyle allows us to do a lot more
Yeah.
fun things than we would normally do if we were just sitting at our beach house
And
in Jacksonville.
That's something
working.
I've thought about, you know, typically before we lived in the bus and we're traveling, you know, you take maybe 1 or 2 vacations a year, something like that, you go to a destination and you remember like, oh, in, you know, 2015 we went on this trip to this place. Like, we do so much in 1 year now, like it's consistently like a trip that it's sometimes hard to even remember. Because we've gone to so many places.
Yeah,
and
we're
we wanna
actually
do
really
so
grateful
much
that we've
stuff.
been documenting everything.
Yeah, 'cause we're like,
we're
oh, I
oh,
remember
forgot
that.
We went there and did that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, on the flip side of that,
Mhm.
what would you say your worst experience has been? Or have you had,
Oh, we've had some bad.
and with that experience, what do you think you learned? What did you take away from it that helped you improve your life? And
I want to see what he says first.
Oh no, I want to see what
No,
you
I
say because I
have a-
can't think of anything.
Okay,
off the top.
well,
they fight a lot apparently, so.
we do butt heads a lot, but
We are in
one
some
of the worst things I think that happened in regards to bus life is we ran out of gas in
Oh,
the middle of
yeah.
nowhere. Diesel. We ran out of diesel in the middle of nowhere. We ran out of fuel in the middle of nowhere in Oregon on the side of the road.
I think I saw that
As the
video.
sun was going down, there were no gas stations around. It was freezing cold.
I do want to reference that video real fast. If you go back and watch it, Kristen in the video says, "Oh, this isn't that bad.
Well, it
We're on
wasn't-
the side of the road with internet. They
It
watched the
wasn't
movie
bad
the whole
for
time. It was bad for me.
It was bad for Will. I had a great time. We had friends with us, and I watched Twilight with my friend, and
Yeah.
Will had to go freeze his butt off. But we did learn from that to always make sure you check your fuel levels before you go into off-grid places.
Well, with that also being said, there's 2 fuel stations and they were both closed. So
But I noticed on the back of your bus this trip
Yeah.
that there is a 5-gallon jerry can on the back. So
or
That's another thing we learned.
yeah,
Be prepared.
be more prepared. We only had that 40-gallon tank, but yeah, I guess that was bad, but it wasn't that bad. Like it.
Yeah, I mean everything that we've run into so far has been fixable, or
Yeah.
sometimes there's pain in the butt, but
Overall good.
okay, question number 6. And I think you guys have covered this a little bit in your videos, but I think it's just well worth repeating. So whose idea was it to do bus life, and how did you convince the other person that this is what would be right for our family?
This is Kristen's.
it was my idea.
Yeah.
Will is very against it.
Wasn't very against
Oh
it.
my gosh, please. So we took a trip in 2015. We did a work trip where we flew to California, and then we rented a car after that week of working, and we did a road trip up the California coast, and we just lived out of our SUV for the duration of that trip, and I loved it. Like, I wanted to live in a van after that. Like, I was like, well, I wanted to get rid of all of our stuff and live in a van, and he was like, no, that's not realistic. You can't do that. I'm
I
like,
mean, I never saw
I'm like, what do you
anybody really
mean?
doing
Every people do it. Yes, you can. And he's gonna act like he was all on board, but he was not all on board about it. And so that was like in 2015.
15, yeah.
So he kind of shut the idea down, but I didn't give up on the idea, and so I would just like tag him in things all the time on Instagram, like, oh, this could be us. Then I was like, okay, well, he doesn't want a van, maybe he wants something bigger, like a tiny house. So like, I want a tiny house, and he was like, I don't like tiny houses. So eventually, I just kept brainwashing him, and then he came up with the idea that we should live in a bus and travel around. It was really my idea, but I
It was
brainwashed
Kristen's
him.
So how did you come up with that idea, Will? Did you just get tired of the nagging?
All the
Or
time.
was there-
And so like I was working on a huge video project that was like, I mean, it was like a couple month long project, and I don't know, I was just like burnt out on the project a little bit, and I wanted to travel a little bit more. And me and Kristen at that time were both working from the house, so we had the freedom to kind of go travel and still be able to work. and I don't know. I mean, we just.
It was all my tagging and being
Yeah, it
like,
was all-
oh, we should live in a van or a bus or a tiny house.
And we're always like, me and my dad are always down for a good project.
Yeah.
So that's like half of it. Me and my dad were like, hey, you know, we don't mind learning how to do this, because at that time there's only a few buses that were really out there, and there was only a few people that actually had content that you could view.
Right.
So it was really like kind of shooting in the dark when we were first still building the bus, which now there's like so much that you can pull from, but
Yeah.
figuring out stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this one's for Will then. Now, everybody that watches your videos knows that you are big time into skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
Was the skateboard ramp on the side of the bus, was that a condition of bus life, or was it a consolidation? You know, in other words, if you live on a bus with me, Will, I'll let you build the skateboard. How did that happen?
Yeah, it was.
Because that's something, you see tables and burners and back decks,
Yeah.
but yours is
Nothing
the
like that.
only bus that I've ever seen that has its own, and I don't know
Skateboarding is
what the
life.
term is, the
So
ramp.
Yeah, it's a skate ledge, and the way that so where we were building the bus is actually one of my good friends, like one of their houses, and he's a professional skateboarder, and there was a skate park in the backyard, that was pretty much, it got torn down all the way because it was just rotted and not being used anymore. Behind where we were building the bus, so there's the extra rails, the handrails, and all that stuff, and. When we were building the bus, and I brought it up to Chris, and it was one of those things like, oh, what if we like mounted some skate thing and customized it to the bus? So I actually ended up taking this rail that used to come up and used to grind out of a ramp on, and mounted it sideways. And the way that I could make it work for both of us was, yeah, it's a grinding rail, but it can also be a bench that can pull out and you can sit on. And we've actually used that for just like sitting out, and even like the tiny house festival,
Yeah,
everybody's
okay.
sitting on it. It's really nice for things like that. And yeah, that was a way to just customize the bus a little bit more. I don't know, for us.
I'm
Make it-
very supportive
make it
of
feel
him
more like
skateboarding.
home,
Yeah.
is it?
And she likes for me to go skate
Yeah.
because she's like, it's
I'm
like my
"Please,
stress relief.
Go skate.
Okay, how, when you guys are traveling, how do you decide where you're going and how long do you travel on any given day? I mean, because I hear people, you know, like myself, because I'm a destination traveler, I will travel 8, 10, 12 hours a day and it doesn't bother me. But as a full-time family on the road, there's
Yeah.
got to come a time at some point in the day where you go, it's time to stop, the dog needs to go out, the
Yeah.
baby needs to be changed, you know.
So we
Everybody-
laughed about this the other night at the fire. You weren't there, but we were talking about how Mike and Dale can just drive far, and I'm the one that. So this is a part of that. I can drive like 2 hours, and all of a sudden I'm like tired out of nowhere. I'm like, let's pull over and let's take a nap. But
What we figured out over 2 years of traveling is that our limit for the day, so if we put in like we're trying to get to this point from point A to point B today, it can't be any longer than 5 hours, and
Yeah, maybe
preferably
4.
only like 3 hours.
yeah,
Because going 3 hours for us takes like 8 hours.
we
Because
stop,
we stop
we
every hour and a
film.
half, we
Right,
let the dog out, we let the baby get out of her car seat and run around, we eat lunch,
And once you have to put Rowan back in her car seat, like after like 2 times, like she's over it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
she's
we don't want to
ready.
force her, so it's good.
So it's
to
pretty
get out.
much like a 3 to 5 hour distance, but that's gonna take us pretty much all day.
Right, and that's just part of bus life.
Yeah.
Everybody, that's what is it, you know, it's, people say, well, it's 2 hours by car, but that's 3 hours by bus.
It's
or
so
4
true.
hours by
Yeah,
bus.
and
Yeah.
the other side of that too is like out west, we were able to move a lot slower. Where on the east, you really have to. There's not as many open spots to stay.
Yeah.
So you kind of do have to keep going a lot more on the east coast as opposed to the west coast. You can sit for like a week at a time and then slowly move to the next, eye overlander spot or spot that you
Yeah.
find.
And how we decide where to go is we just pick like one goal destination for the year, and then that's where we're trying to get to. So last year was Alaska, we didn't get there, so we're doing that one again this year with our fingers crossed that we can get to Alaska this summer.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's a good point, though. You were going to Alaska, so you're at the border, going, maybe it'll open, maybe it won't, maybe. So at the point you decided, okay, this isn't gonna work, where did you go and why? Or
So
if
we
you
were
remember.
in Montana.
We were in Montana, just
And-
kind of waiting to see, and then it kept getting pushed back. Like
So
it
we
was-
gave up on that because we're like, it's not going to happen this year, obviously. And then we just decided to find cool things to do in all the states surrounding us that we've never been
Which
to any of those states before. Really.
Worked out, which
Yeah,
worked out great
Idaho.
because we weren't gonna go to Yellowstone, we weren't gonna go to the Tetons, we were gonna go straight through, and instead we ended up going down, hitting Yellowstone, hitting the Tetons, and then that's like where we ended up having one of the best times. Like
Yeah.
last summer, that's how we met Alex. Like if we would have gone north, we wouldn't have met Alex. We
Yeah.
would have met up with Kelston J. So it's cool how like that kind of
Yeah.
turned into a bigger.
Yeah, there's always a bright side, even if the clouds are
For
kind of
sure.
dark.
Totally.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask a follow-up question.
About going to Alaska.
No, it was about, I don't know. Let's move on, and if I think about it, we'll come back. Okay, here's another one for Kristen. We see Will riding the motorcycle all the time. Do you know how to drive the motorcycle?
So I do know how to, but I used to have a Harley Davidson Sportster back in the day before I became a mom. But I did get in a little bit of a bike accident with that, where I dropped my bike on my ankle and really messed my ankle up. And then I've kind of been like skittish of bikes since then. And then I became a mom, so now I'm even more like, well, it's not really responsible for me to ride a motorcycle. Well, I have a very dependent child. Once she gets a little bit bigger, though, I'll probably start riding again.
But in case, like an absolute
If there was an emergency, I could
Kristen-
ride it.
Okay,
But I could
yeah,
also
and-
drive the bus too, which I would probably
Right,
do
because
instead.
that's kind of where I was going to go with that. It's because you hear so many couples, and the one member or the other says, "I've never driven a bus. I don't." And it's like,
Yeah.
what would you do in an emergency?
Yes, exactly.
So I think it's important
To know.
if you're a couple, like somebody like me or Mike that's by themselves, we're kind of on our own. But if you have two of us and something happens to Will, at least you can get behind the wheel and get
Yeah.
you to where you need to go to get help.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't know how to
We
drive
might
the
hit a
bus,
few cones and curves,
yeah,
but
but
we'll
I mean,
get there.
but you know, yeah. But there are couples out there that they
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even have any idea how to even start a bus
Yeah.
It's
or
so
a
true.
motorcycle, and that's
Yeah.
kind of why I was asking.
Yeah.
So you do know how to ride it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most on your YouTube channel or just in person? What would you say is the most common question you get? Or
I feel like a lot of it's about Rome.
The one thing that people always want to know what we're gonna do when Rome gets older. Specifically, like to her bed, but then like her sleeping arrangements. Like, where is she gonna go when she's a teenager? No, I just tell them we have a couch bed she can sleep
Yeah.
on. But I mean, realistically, when she gets like too old and it gets too cramped, we'll start traveling part time instead of full time and
Yeah.
give her a room if that's what she wants.
okay, well that was kind of going to be my follow up to that. Is where do you see yourselves in 5 years when she's school age? Do you think you'll continue to travel up until a
Yeah.
certain point and then
We're-
say we need to?
She's gonna be homeschooled at least through elementary school,
Yeah.
probably middle school. I don't want to send her to school. Kids are cruel.
All
And
the
plus
people that we
want-
meet in the community are so
Yeah.
well
Plus,
versed anyway.
we want to be able to travel, so I don't want to have to like take her out of school for like 2
Yeah.
weeks if we want to go on a trip in the bus somewhere, go over to Europe or do something, So she's gonna be homeschooled,
Yeah.
and eventually we want to buy a piece of land and build some sort of like off-grid homestead
Compound.
glamping compound sort of thing. Mike's gonna do one of those up in the Adirondacks, and we're doing like switch and
Yeah, we'll just figure out our own, but it'd be nice to have like you come up and visit and hang out like you
Yeah.
did in the summer, and
Yeah.
same thing, and like have a little community area for everybody. So that's our like 5-year plan, something like that.
Okay, well, my channel, you probably realize I don't do links and all this other stuff. So, I call it the one-shot wonder. So is there anything else that you want people to know about you, NumberJuanBus, your social media contacts? Just anything you think?
Yeah, so I mean our YouTube is at NumberJuanBus, number like NUMBER, then Juan the name JUAN, then Bus
BUS.
BUS, just to some people.
And
have a
that is
hashtag.
on Instagram, Facebook,
It's the same across all platforms.
TikTok. We're on TikTok too, and YouTube. Yeah.
Dale's done started TikTok.
No, Dale's not. Dale, actually, I do have a new Instagram page,
Oh, yeah.
apparently, that's called Dale and the Slackers. I think. I have nothing to do with it.
It's all
I,
Mike.
I told Mike,
started it?
I said, Mike, do whatever you want to, just don't get me involved in a felony.
Nice.
That's all I care
We'll
about.
go follow you.
Yeah.
Okay, and without giving away too much, You guys have been here for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
helping with me and all that. So where are you headed? Or,
So our plan right now is to kind of go see my cousin in Florida still, and then really just get out of Florida. It's getting a little hot here.
Head north.
a little?
Yeah.
What-
And then head north. There's a rumor that the borders of Alaska, or that the Canadian borders will open, so we might be able to make it to Alaska this summer. Still, we can't just focus on that too much because we don't know
Yeah.
yet.
Okay, one last chance. I always try to give my interviewees a chance. Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Oh man, I didn't know we had a.
You know,
what
see,
are your plans this summer?
Actually,
Hold on, I
I'm
think we
hoping
get the camera to
to.
turn around.
Oh, no, that's all right. Just leave it there because then I have to do the outro and do some B-roll or
Okay.
whatever. I just, I'm obviously working on the bus.
Yep.
And as you know, probably in mid-May or something, I'll actually be going back to New York, where Mike's at, full-time right now. And he's got 3 or 4 projects that he needs a good supervisor on, so I'll be up there helping him
We
with
might
that.
see you there.
Yeah.
We
we could be
might,
there
and
in
then,
Alaska.
in the spare time, we'll be working on this.
Yeah.
And
It's coming along.
having campfires. Yeah, I once again, I know this is your interview, but let me thank you two,
Right.
everybody that's been here over the last 2 weeks. I'm so much further along than I would have been had I been doing this myself.
Yeah.
I'd still be, trying to figure out how to sweep the floor.
It's a lot to do by yourself, and that's why I'm glad we were able to come down
Yeah.
here and just help out where we
Yeah.
could and get you road ready, so that way we can finish it up north this summer. So.
Yep. All right, well, that's it, YouTube.
All right.
My friends Kristen and Will here, there's their questions.
That was
And
fun. Thank you.
Everybody stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye,
Thank
Mom.
you. Thanks, Dale. Nice.